Whoa.
Larry Paul.
Yes.
Just let me know.
Again, if
All
you
right.
are, Genesis.
Thank you so much. All right. Today's August 10th, 2021. The time now is 1:34. I'd like to call this city planning meeting to order. First, we'll start with the roll call of all commissioners that are present. Commissioner Alexander,
Present.
Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Lunn, Commissioner Mobley, Commissioner Steig,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. So that gives us 5 commissioners. So we have a quorum. So at this time now, I'll read into record the rules for today's meeting. The order of business. The order of business at the hearing shall be as follows: a call to order and a roll call with a recording of members present, approval of the minutes, reading of the hearing rules, presentation of dockets, staff presentation, applicant presentations, questions from members, a recess for 30 minutes, consideration of the docket, public comment, rebuttal by applicant, questions from members, voting adjournment. Presentation of the docket. The order of business for each docket shall be as follows: presentation by the City Planning Commission staff of the Department of the Safety and Permit staff, presentation by the applicant or the representative. The appellate or the applicant may appear on the behalf or be represented by a duly authorized agent. Only one representative may speak on behalf of the request and must pre-register with the staff of the City Planning Commission. Other representatives or speakers may sign up to provide comments during the public comment portion of the meeting. The applicant shall be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. Questions from members. The members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff of the applicant. Recess. The commission 30-minute recess to allow members of the public to comment. Public comment. Rules: only written public comment will be allowed. Live public comment will not be allowed. No member of the public may submit more than 1 written comment per agenda item. Time allowed for public comment. The public comment will be made available at the start and close of the end of the 30-minute recess. Form: public comments may be submitted electronically on the form provided by the City Planning Commission. Any comments missing the information will not be read aloud. Each submission must contain the commenter's first and last name, the commenter's address, and whether the comment is being put in connection with his or her comments, and also the agenda item. Reading of the public comment. A moderator will read into record all comments pertaining to that item that has been submitted in accordance with these rules. Comments will be read aloud in a normal speaking voice. The moderator will discontinue reading a comment once it exceeds 2 minutes. Rebuttal by applicant. Following the public comment period, if there is opposition, the authorized representative of the applicant is allowed a rebuttal not to exceed 2 minutes. Questions from members. Following the public comment and rebuttal, the members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or the applicant. Voting. Making a motion. The member making a motion shall clearly state their name when making a motion. For example, I, Commissioner Stewart, move to approve, deny the request. Seconding motion. The member seconding the motion shall clearly state their name when seconding motion. For example, I, Commissioner Stewart, second the motion made by Commissioner Brown. Statement by the chair. The chair will restate the motion confirming who made and seconded the motion. Voting. The chair will request a verbal vote from each member by roll call. Each member will indicate yea in support of the motion or nay in opposition. All right, first on our agenda for today, we have the adoption of minutes of the July 13th, 2021 meeting. And also the adoption of the minutes of July 22nd meeting.
So this Commissioner Steig, I move adoption.
And second by Commissioner Brown.
All right. It's been moved by Commissioner Steig for approval of the minutes of July 13, 2021 and July 27, 21, and seconded by Commissioner Brown. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Any further discussion on the motion? All right. If there's no further discussion on the motion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steig.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. All right, unanimous support for the motion, and the motion is carried. We'll start with our first zoning docket 6321.
Zoning docket 6321 is a request for a zoning change from an HUMU historic urban neighborhood mixed-use district to an MU1 medium-intensity mixed-use district, and a conditional use to permit a bar and an outdoor amusement facility in an MU1 medium-density mixed-use district. Collectively, the subject properties comprise the Broad Theater complex, which includes the theater itself and part of the theater's former parking lot that was converted to a temporary outdoor entertainment venue in 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The rezoning petition is intended to accommodate the applicant's desire to establish a permanent outdoor amusement venue, a use that is not permitted in the HUMU district. However, even in the requested MU1 zone, outdoor amusement facilities are permitted as a conditional use only. Hence the conditional use petition that will also be addressed. The proposed use, as described above and by the applicant, does not correspond to any use currently defined in the CZO that's permitted by right or with conditional use approval. The request is a melding of two wholly different uses, namely outdoor amusement facility and live performance venue, but does not fit neatly into the category of either use. In fact, in some instances, the two uses are mutually exclusive. Activities or conditions that comply with one use are prohibited by the other. Further complicating matters is the manner in which outdoor live performances of all kinds are regulated in the city of New Orleans. A 2019 determination by the Department of Safety and Permits effectively prohibits outdoor live performances everywhere except in the French Quarter. Broadside began its operation in July of 2020 under provision contained in Mayor Cantrell's emergency declaration in response to the coronavirus. And the use was granted a 6 months renewal under the same provision. It was originally speculated that when the city reopened in the wake of lessening numbers of new COVID cases, the emergency provisions would be suspended and the permitting process for certain live outdoor performances would return to its standard operating procedure. As of this writing, however, with the emergence of the Delta variant of the coronavirus, it's unclear as to whether the emergency provisions will remain in place, but even if they do remain in place, that decision will have no effect on the more pressing issue of how going forward live outdoor performances will be regulated permanently. Until the City Council acts on that action, the applicant's petition is without effect because, as mentioned earlier, there is no existing zoning regulation that corresponds to or can accommodate it. Accordingly, the staff recommends deferral to the September 14th meeting. However, the applicant is requesting that the commission approve the zoning change and the conditional request, the conditional use request for the bar only at this time. He contemplates revisiting the outdoor entertainment commission component of his request at a later date. It should be noted, however, that the staff review of both the zoning change and the bar requests is still underway so there is not yet a complete report available for the commissioner's review. Nevertheless, the Planning Commission has the ability to move forward without a preliminary staff report if they wish.
All right, so at this time, do we have a representative to speak from Greenway Ventures?
Yes, that's me, Brian Knighton, the applicant.
Okay. All right, please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
It's Brian Knighton, address is 636 North Broad. Thank you, Ms. Jones. Just to point out something, this proposal does not include the current theater. The theater remains the same. This is actually across Toulouse Street, just as a point of clarity. And also, we began in October of 2020, not July. We were granted the permit in July, though. Broadside began in October 2020 as a result of the mayor's proclamation allowing businesses to use their parking lot as an extension of their business, in this case, the Broad Theater. Until our self-imposed closure, the business was both a success for our team and for musicians. The property is located on one of the busiest corridors in the city and is located 1 block from the Lafayette Greenway, which has an arts and cultural overlay. There are no residential zones abutting our site. The development plans you have before you have been thoughtfully crafted to provide the best possible experience for both our guests and our neighbors. The roof structure is designed to capture sound before it escapes the facility. The exterior finish of the bar will be wood with sound dampening elements built throughout. The stage design and placement of speakers are all designed to keep sound in. I'm aware of the long history this body and CPC have had with outdoor live music. This is not a new issue to the city. What is new is the urgency of the matter. The venue we created, Broadside, has been a good neighbor. We have taken our presence within the music community very seriously. We have paid out over $325,000 to musicians since October 1st. It is my hope that we can use the tools available to the CPC board today to find a path forward for the long-term continuation of this business. I'm asking the CPC board to make a determination on the request before you, and that is our zoning change to ME1, our conditional use for a bar, and conditional use for outdoor amusement. It is my fear that if this body does not act today and defers to another session, safety and permits will use that tactic only to send me back to CPC. I'm aware CPC cannot make text amendments, but you can push me one step closer to our goal of building this facility and push this issue before City Council. On January 26th, you voted unanimously to move the music study forward. You have done all you can and all you need to do. Let this application be a test case for City Council and safety and permits to see how they want to address outdoor live music. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Knighton. At this time, commissioners, do you have any questions for staff or for the applicant as it relates to zoning docket 6321?
I do. This is Commissioner Stieg. So, Mr. Knighton, can you expand on how the action you want us to take would create the test case, if I have your words right? So how would that, how do you envision that working? What action are you asking us for in order to constitute that test case?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, we are an arts and cultural overlay, so that by right gives us live entertainment. It makes MU1 and the AC1 overlay give us the conditional use to have a bar. So I feel that, and as well, MU1 also allows for outdoor amusement. In the music study report that you all approved in January, pages 77 through 78 or 79, expand upon how one can use live, how really safety and permits can take live entertainment and outdoor amusement and make some slight amendments, either through a waiver or through via a text amendment, allowing us to have this facility with outdoor music. So there is a way forward with outdoor amusement, assuming safety and permits would grant a waiver. I'm just afraid that if outdoor amusement is not given to us today, then safety and permits will only send it back and say you need outdoor amusement first in order for us to grant a waiver. We have to have something to grant the waiver to. So, and that's all coming out of your report. This is not something, made up. And actually, I was going back today and I found some emails going all the way back to November, and some most recently is April with Nick Kendall and Todd Breckman that also state safety and permits has the ability to grant a waiver for outdoor amusement and the live entertainment. So I think that's our path forward.
Okay, and then staff, can you comment on that?
Yes. It, from where I stand, excuse me, from where I stand, it looks as if Mr. Knighton is appealing to the study that was done last year or the year before. I have not yet, I don't see the nexus between what safety and permits does and what the CPC does. The CPC, it is true that we have a study that makes all kinds of recommendations, but the analysis that we as staff have to do has to be based on what's currently in the zoning ordinance. You know, a study is not the same as an ordinance. And that's been my position going in. You know, Stephen may be able to articulate this a little bit better than me. And
Yeah, Robin, I'll take over there, and
Thank
I
you.
think Paul can, Paul and Bob are the best people to speak to the study, so I'll kind of just, so everyone's on the same page, speak to what this application is, and then Paul can explain how the study informs that. This application is for property that is zoned HUMU. The request is for a zoning change to MU1, which is basically the next step up the zoning ladder. It's a mixed-use district. One of the things it allows is what's called outdoor amusement facility, which is a zoning term that is for things like mini golf, go-karts, things that are entertainment and outdoor, but not live entertainment, not live performance. The application here is to do a zoning change to MU1 is the first part. The second part is to do an approval for that outdoor amusement classification with the hopes of using that as an ability to allow for live entertainment. And then third, to allow a bar. So there's three pieces to the application. The fundamental issue that occurs right now is that you've got the outdoor amusement zoning classification and you've got outdoor live entertainment, which is sought here, and they're not the same thing. And there is no ability under the current zoning regulations to create an outdoor live entertainment facility. And so that fundamental issue is the basis of the deferral report. Mr. Knighton, at this point, I believe he wants to take two of the three components, which are the zoning change to MU1 and the conditional use to the bar, and is requesting that you as a commission move forward with those today. We don't have a staff report that speaks to those topics because the entirety of our staff report isn't yet complete because we're trying to resolve all these many issues in one report. However, he's requesting that you move forward those two pieces right now. He would like, and Mr. Knighton, correct me if I'm misrepresenting anything, but he'd like the outdoor amusement request put aside. And he and I and Robin have had conversations about him coming back with a text amendment application that would potentially allow for the outdoor amusement. So the bar and the zoning change would happen now. The outdoor amusement may happen in the future with possibly a forthcoming text amendment. So there's lots of moving parts. Paul, do you want to pick up on how the live entertainment?
Could I also say something? Yeah, Mr. Carl, yeah, you're correct with the HUMU and the bar conditional use request, but I'm still also pushing for the outdoor amusement because based on the study, if we look at how CPC is recommending we do these phased approaches to granting a permanent license, if we grant someone a temporary phased-in license, we can see good actors versus bad actors. If we make a zoning change or text amendment, then we really open it all up, and of course it'll all be conditional use, but the ability to remove that permit becomes more difficult for the city. Whereas if we take the approach that CPC wrote in the music study and do a phased approach to the permit, with these sort of waivers, as CPC suggests, waivers within outdoor amusement or within live entertainment. That to me seems like the easiest path forward and something that the city can sort of wrap its head around without creating a permanent text amendment.
And if I can, I got the impression that Mr. Knighton was saying it's going to end up at the city council anyway, and they're going to need to resolve it. So why don't we get it up to them quickly, so or quicker? So Stephen or Bob or Paul, can you comment to that specific request? Because if I'm understanding it right, and I might not be, I'm getting the impression that he's saying some kind of legislative action is going to be needed to reconcile some of this stuff, and that's going to be need to happen at the city council level. But am I hearing all that right? And what's y'all's view of that?
I want to ask a follow-up on that, which is, would a text amendment to the CZO move that faster
Yeah, that was.
to the city council and provide a comprehensive solution rather than privileging one business?
Well, and also a zoning change, talking about the permanence of this, the zoning change for something that may or may not be needed here, trying to get to something else, sounds like it might be a little bit of a, but go ahead, Bob, you were going to say something.
So let's go back to, I think Commissioner Steig had the first question, and then we'll get an answer to your question, Commissioner Mobley, and then we'll hear from Bob as well, right? So Commissioner
And
Steig, ask the question again.
Yeah, so my question is the merits of the idea of it's going to get resolved, but it has to get resolved by the city council anyway, so let's get it up to them quicker.
So,
Right. So Bob,
so to that point, he is correct that the city council is the legislative authority for the city of New Orleans, and through legislation, the city council can enact legislation that would create the entitlement that he's looking for. I don't think that is a possibility with this particular docket, though, because that is not currently within the scope of this docket. In other words, the vehicle through which the council can act is through a text amendment, and there is no text amendment pending. And any text amendment has to be, applied for, brought before the city council or city planning commission for recommendation, and then elevated up to the city council. That is having to take place in a separate legislative action.
And so even if it got to the city council quicker,
the city council could not
they can't take the action. Right. Okay.
At the time, the issue, I think, is what I'm hearing is that and I'm not sure exactly what the waiver is that the applicant is speaking to, because the Department of Safety and Permits, we are relying on the Department of Safety and Permits interpretation of the zoning ordinance with respect to outdoor live entertainment. And that interpretation was done a number of years ago. And because the zoning ordinance doesn't speak directly to a permissibility for outdoor live entertainment, the Department of Safety and Permits has opined and has interpreted the ordinance as prohibiting outdoor live entertainment with certain exceptions. So the current vehicle through which, so for instance, Crescent City Barbecue, they have outdoor live entertainment performances. The way that is done right now is through a special permit process. The temporary entitlement that the applicant is speaking to, there is nothing in terms of a temporary use permit or a temporary entitlement that exists other than a special use permit. And this process is not necessary for them to get a special use permit. What our study speaks to is creating something other than a special use permit, because the special use permit is currently problematic because you have to apply for a separate permit for every single function. And we suggested in the study that having a different type of permit would be an improvement, because then an applicant or a property owner could apply for instance, a year-long permit with a certain number of dates that would be available for them to do outdoor live entertainment. That mechanism doesn't exist in legislation right now. So, and again, that would be something that would be a permit option that would need to be created through a separate legislative action of the city council. So what we've been stuck with, and I, nothing that we're saying is suggesting that this is an inappropriate use or an inappropriate development. What we're saying is that there's currently not a legal mechanism available through this application for the live entertainment component to be approved or to even be considered. So I think that's the basis for our recommendation, and we haven't been able, because until that issue gets resolved as far as how that is going to be accomplished, we didn't spend the time to analyze everything else, because all of the other things are integral or connected to that outdoor live entertainment activity and integral to that. So that's why we have not produced a report yet, and that's why we're recommending deferral, so that we can continue to try to figure out the best way forward.
Okay, that answers my question. So go on to the next ones.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Commissioner Steve. So now, Commissioner Mobley.
I think my question was partially answered by the last answer, but would love to understand what the distinction is between outdoor amusement facility and live entertainment, and why the definition of outdoor amusement facility cannot be expanded through a textual change.
So the distinction is that the current definition contemplates and gives examples of mini golf, go-karts, that sort of things. It's stuff where there's not a performance happening. It's happening kind of, an amusement park sort of thing. So the definition is what gives language that could be a little bit more explicit on the live entertainment thing. So in the course of reviewing this, we brought that to safety and permits. Safety and permits concluded that it does not allow for live entertainment. It is possible for a text amendment to be filed to alter that definition to include live entertainment. It's also possible for a text amendment to be applied for to allow for live entertainment secondary use, which is what safety and permits has interpreted as having to happen indoors versus outdoors. Possible to do a text amendment to explicitly say that that's outdoors. There's also other use permissions that could be allowed here by text amendment. For example, outdoor amphitheater is an outdoor live performance venue. It's not allowed in this zoning district. It's not allowed in the proposed zoning district, but Mr. Knighton could pursue a text amendment to allow that in either the existing or proposed zoning. So there are a number of text amendments that could be pursued to get him to where he wants to go. There's just nothing on the table at this point.
I was directed to, my architect and I, we were instructed by.
So Mr. Knighton, if you at this point now, you spoke your 3 minutes only. If a commissioner has a question for you, you'll be able to.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify why we went this route and not the text amendment route, because we were instructed to do this. We were instructed to file for ME1 and outdoor amusement by city planning staff, and I have the emails to show that.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And Commissioner Brown, did you have a follow up after Commissioner Mobley? That answered your question as well.
I lost my connection, power, and internet went down. So no, I don't have a follow-up now.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant or staff as it relates to zoning docket 6321?
Yes, Commissioner Lund. So what I understood, Commissioner Brown's question is one that I had also, was if well, one, I wanted to ask the applicant, what are the outdoor amusement activities that are proposed? And two was without the resolution in terms of having a means for even approving live entertainment use, is it premature to request a zoning change? That would be for staff.
Yeah, sorry. Again, this is going back to something that we were instructed to do, to apply for MU1.
Mr. Knight, excuse me. Commissioner Lund, did you direct that question to staff or?
Right, the first, actually, I had two questions. Sorry, the first was for the applicant about what are the outdoor amusement activities that they're planning on? And the second was for staff, which is, I think, what Mr. Knighton started to answer. I was really
Right.
asking
So Mr. Knight, you can answer Commissioner Lund's first question for you, and then
Yes.
staff will answer the second question.
We would like to give musicians an opportunity to earn an income. That's what we would like to do. We want to provide that opportunity. Are we going to open a go-kart track? No. We would like to provide musicians a chance to earn a living.
Okay, and does that would that not fall under live entertainment then? I guess that is for staff.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it, is that it does fall under live entertainment, and there's no
No, right.
live entertainment designation in any
That was,
district
yeah.
or the.
Okay. So is there a purpose in voting on a zoning change, given the ultimate goal of the applicant to be able to have musicians have a way to make a living, play? In other words, what would be the purpose of voting on a zoning change before we have the allowance of the use that's desired? Is that a question staff could address?
So I would suggest that that's the basis for our recommendation of deferral.
Okay.
All right. So at this time, commissioners, are there any other questions for the applicant or staff as relates to zoning docket 6321? All right, there are no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Knighting. And we'll continue on to zoning docket 6421.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This City Council motion requests consideration of the City Planning Commission's billboard study option number 2. This option recommends creation of a trade system that gives credit for the removal of legal non-conforming billboards in exchange for the electronic conversion of other legal billboards that are not currently eligible for electronic conversion due to zoning regulations. The study recommended specific locations that should be eligible for electronic conversion through a trade system based on certain criteria. A number of the locations recommended in the study to be eligible for electronic conversion through a city administrative process may not be eligible based on state distance regulations if other billboards in the vicinity continue to exist. Billboard company with the largest inventory to trade has proposed some additional locations. The CPC staff has evaluated these additional locations using criteria developed in the billboard study, as well as during the staff report analysis. Staff finds that none of the proposed new locations meet all of the criteria, but 2 out of the 5 stand out as less objectionable than the others. Based on the billboard study, the staff intends to recommend approval or modified approval of the text amendment, but would like first to obtain additional input on the final recommendation. The input focusing on 2 issues: guidance from the City Planning Commission on modifying the criteria concerning locations eligible for electronic conversion, and the proposed locations from billboard companies, and review by safety and permits of the draft language, which is currently ongoing. So the staff recommends deferral of zoning docket 6421.
All right. Thank you, Paul. At this time, so this actually came through us through City Council motion, but I do see that Mr. Richard has joined us. Is he slated to speak, Paul?
Yes, the council member has authorized Mr. Cortizas to speak on behalf of the motion.
Okay, all right, and if, and since he's authorized, because I would have, as chair, allowed him to speak. So, Mr. Cortez, at this time now, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can y'all hear me? Because I'm having
Yes.
trouble with my camera. I'm not sure if y'all can hear me on the mic.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Chairman Stewart, thank you so much, and members of the commission, thank you so much. And Paul, thank you as well for the work that you're doing on this billboard study. I know that the staff has recommended deferral, and we're actually fine with that because we need to work with the staff and are looking to continue to work with the staff, particularly with regards to the proposed language for the text amendment, Article 25 and Section 25.7. Frankly, you know, there may be, given the map that they've been discussing, or at least have identified, the billboard conversions may already be permitted in some of these areas, but we just haven't had a chance to observe it, as well as we haven't had a chance to have a discussion regarding the point systems that's being considered for conversion. But I wanted to make a few points here. Number one, Commissioners, this is not about adding new billboards or billboards in historic residential or the French Quarter. Conversely, this is about taking down billboards in those districts and areas. And while it is true that the industry is shifting more to digital, the real impetus for this policy was the city prior to 2018, really dating back to 2015, wanting to look at removal of static structures in residential neighborhoods and historic neighborhoods. So there was a discussion I was having about how can we remove these billboards and in turn incentivize the industry to take down these boards, but also make them hold for these assets, right? So the goal was, and still is, to find a balance between incentivizing the billboard industry to take down some of the lesser than quality like billboards and balancing that with the appropriateness of conversion, right? The truth of the matter is that these static billboards are still revenue generators for the industry and for the billboard companies. And they are assets of the billboard companies, right? So they are valuable in a sense to the companies, and there are obligations with the landowners and the lessees. But I can only speak for Upfront. We're certainly very open and very interested in working with the city and the planning on very good policy, which I think everyone would agree, which is significant takedown with a small number of appropriate conversions. And again, not in the French Quarter, not in the residential districts. And by the way, again, I have to emphasize, because a lot of folks say that this is about new billboards. It's absolutely not about any new billboards. Again, it's frankly about taking down billboards. With that, Commissioner Stewart, I appreciate the time. Commissioners, thank you. We're in agreement with the deferral, and we look forward to continuing the discussions with staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, Commissioners, at this time now, do you have a question for staff as relates to this zoning docket or from Mr. Cortez? All right. If there no further discussion, we'll continue to move on to zoning docket 6521.
Good afternoon. Zoning docket 6521 is a request for a conditional use to permit a 3-family multiple family residence in an HMR3 historic Marinade Tremaine Bywater residential district. The municipal addresses are 630 Mandeville Street and 2330 Royal Street. The site is presently occupied by a one-story connected two warehouse buildings. The proposal calls for maintaining the existing structure, demolish the existing rear portion to create an approximately 800 square foot interior courtyard, and redevelop the site with additions on new second floors for a mixed-use development of multifamily use and commercial tenant spaces. The proposal would resultingly increase the gross floor area to approximately 5,400 square feet. The proposed conditional use for the site is essentially seen as precedents that have existed on the site and in the neighborhood for centuries, and is thus compatible with the surrounding area, which does include other multifamily structures. Additionally, plenty of residential uses occupying sites with commercial uses on the ground floor, and the addition of potentially neighborhood serving businesses in those commercial tenant spaces that are appropriately sized with the increased density would be compatible with the neighborhood context. The site meets the conditional use approval standards, those of the residential historic core land use designation of the plan for the 21st century, and those of the HMR3 district, zoning district. Approval of the request is not anticipated to detrimentally affect adjacent development in neighborhoods. Additionally, earlier this week, a public commenter emailed us asking about the potential discrepancies as it relates to Article 9, Section 9.3, as it relates to the application of regulations regarding multifamily dwellings, mixed-use developments, and non-residential uses. Article 1, Section 1.4G, conflict with other laws and regulations, and Article 21, Section 21.4D, and Article 25, Section 25.4D. That wondering that if the applicant could add dwelling units to the site with existing nonconformities related to interior side and rear yard deficient setbacks. While this aforementioned correspondence could not be included in the report, to all of this happening after the public comment deadline, in an effort to address them justly, we corresponded with the Department of Safety and Permits, who made the following determinations. When there is a mixed-use development containing both multifamily and non-residential uses, the non-residential bulk and yard standards apply with the exception of the minimum lot area standard. The multifamily regulations apply. Second, the non-conforming structures may be added to as long as they don't increase the specific non-conformity, in this case, the rear and interior yard, as per Article 21, Section 21. Since the structure is built to the property lines and the applicant is not increasing the rear and interior side yard non-conforming conditions. The Department of Safety and Permits has also determined that variances are not required, but if the commission feels a waiver is necessary, staff has prepared all of this aforementioned information. And all of this will be included in the final report released after the commission makes a decision, whether that be today or at a subsequent CPC hearing. In accordance with all of the above, the staff recommends approval of zoning docket 6521, subject to 7 provided.
All right. Thank you, Joseph, for reading that into the record. At this time now, is there a representative from 2330 Royal Street present?
Yes, this is Jenny West. I'm the architect for the property.
All right. Just state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jenny West. I'm the architect. Address is 815 Pauline Street. Our client purchased this property from their uncle who had the Pauline connection. I think the staff covered this incredibly well. We're asking for a conditional use for the 3rd unit, which is that smaller unit on the ground floor. And we're open to any questions, but I think that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. West. So, Commissioner, at this time now, do you have any questions for the representative present or for staff as it relates to this zoning docket? All right. If there are no questions, we'll continue to move on to zoning docket 6621.
Zoning docket 6621 is a request for an affordable housing plan development in an HUMU historic urban neighborhood mixed-use district located at 616 North Broad Street. The applicant proposes to construct a new 3-story multifamily structure containing 24,066 square feet of gross floor area. The proposal is a 3rd part of a 3-phase development. The first phase was a construction of a 2-story office building that houses the SBP national headquarters. The second phase consists of 2 structures that together contain 50 mixed income dwelling units. The 3rd phase of the development is a construction of another multifamily structure consisting of 32 dwelling units and 1 rental office. Currently, the different phases of development are located on different lots on the same square. The applicant proposes for the affordable housing plan development to include not only the proposed new multifamily structure and site, but also the first 2 phases of the development, which consist of the 3 existing structures. One of the provisos of the request is to consolidate the existing lots into 1 lot of record. The new lot would be an irregularly shaped double frontage lot, which staff believes is acceptable because it is consistent with the existing lot pattern in the area, and consolidating the existing lots into a single lot would enable the lot boundaries and the planned development boundaries to coincide. The existing multifamily development utilizes low-income housing tax credits and provides for a mixed-income housing development. The third phase is slated to also utilize low-income housing tax credits and provide a mixed-income housing development. The proposal will create 16 affordable housing units in addition to the existing 29 affordable housing units that are a part of phase 2. The combination of lots will allow the proposed new multifamily structure to utilize the existing on-street parking along with the proposed 5 new off-street parking spaces. Off-street parking, the existing off-street parking. Under the base zoning district regulations, the development would have insufficient off-street parking as 1 parking space is generally required per dwelling unit, necessitating an additional 32 off-street parking spaces for the proposed multifamily structure. However, Article 5 of the CZO allows for greater flexibility from the base zoning district standards and permits a 50% decrease in off-street parking requirements if the development is located less than 600 feet from a transit stop. A transit stop exists less than 200 feet from the property, so the existing off-street parking spaces combined with the proposed 5 off-street parking spaces would meet the off-street parking requirements with this exemption. Staff finds the applicant is providing a significant public benefit through the provision of affordable housing in close proximity to public transit stops, neighborhood serving amenities, and jobs. Staff finds the proposed plan development is compatible with and preserves the character and integrity of adjacent development and neighborhoods, and the proposal supports the goals of the master plan. Staff would like to note the addition of 1 proviso not included in the report. This proviso should read, prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy, the developer shall submit a copy of the recorded plans to the Department of Safety and Permits. A certificate of occupancy shall not be issued until the Department of Safety and Permits has verified that the affordability requirements have been met. In addition, the developer shall comply with the permitting and reporting requirements set forth in the Code of Ordinances, Article 7, Sections 26-636 and 26-637 of the Code of the City of New Orleans. Additionally, there is an error in the report that staff would like to correct. On page 2, 5, and 28, it states there are 26 existing affordable units as part of phase 2 of the development. The correct number of affordable units is actually 29. Therefore, the combination of affordable units from phase 2 and phase 3 is 45 affordable units, not 42 as the report states. With this amendment to the staff's report, the staff recommends approval of zoning docket 6621, subject to 12 provisos.
All right, thank you. So at this time now, do we have the representatives from Toulouse Commercial Inc. present?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Todd James with Broadmoor LLC, speaking on behalf of SBP. Both myself and Lauren Avioli are present. She's also representative for Toulouse Commercial and SBP. Just to keep it short, once again, thanks to Rachel.
Mr. James, did you state your address?
Sorry, 2740 North Arnold Street, Metairie, Louisiana. Thank you for making sure I clean that up. I should know better than that. But yeah, thanks again to staff, particularly to Mr. Rivers, to Rachel, and everyone else that helped out with this process. This has been a very complex project that SBP has been trying to get underway for a little over a year now, where they're expanding this existing use of mixed income affordable housing at this site. So this is just a continuation as the demand continues to grow in this area. And we feel is much so in keeping with the master plan, much as the staff report reflects. And we do acknowledge the revisions to the report as well as the modifications to the provisos, as Rachel stated earlier.
Thank you, Mr. James. At this time now, Commissioner, do you have any questions for the representative or for the staff as it relates to zoning docket 6621? All right. Thank you, Mr. James. If there are no further questions, we'll continue on to zoning docket 6721.
Zoning docket 721 is a request for conditional use to permit a hotel in a CBD5 urban core neighborhood, lower intensity mixed use district in the Lafayette Square neighborhood within the central business district. The applicants propose converting the ground floor of the existing building located at 848 Carondelet Street to a 42-room hotel, which totals approximately 20,000 square feet in area. The upper floors will remain residential units occupied by the garage. The ground floor of the building occupied and has remained unoccupied since the owners can residential units. The proposal also includes a small restaurant on the ground floor of the building to accompany the hotel as an ancillary use. Hotel rooms will be single rooms which accommodate lesser concentration of commercial uses than other CBD districts. The CZO does not determine what the exact threat is between an inappropriate number of hotels in this district. The proposed use is consistent with the general purpose and intent of the applicable zoning district regulations and the master plan. Additionally, this specific hotel will only occupy a portion of an existing residential building's ground floor and will continue to contribute to the mixed use character of the CBD. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the request subject to 7 provisos.
All right, thank you. So at this time now, do we have a representative from Stevens Garage Building LLC?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Sherman on behalf of the applicant.
All right, Mr. Sherman, just state your address for the record and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Mike Sherman, 800 Brown Street. Honored to be here on behalf of the applicant, Marcel Wisnia and Daniel Weiner with us in the conference room, the developers, along with Becca Hurst from our team. So first I want to thank staff for a strong recommendation and support. I know Aspen's mic was cutting out a little bit, but we appreciate the thoughtful staff report and the recommendation and support. The garage has been a fabulous success. It's a LEED certified, award-winning historic adaptive reuse of a building into 62 wonderful apartments. Despite opening during COVID, the apartments are almost completely full. There's a floor of condos that will hit the market again at some point that have already been subdivided. So the building has been a true success to achieve the vision of CBD5 and the master plan. Before we started this project, we were really thoughtful in taking several months to do neighborhood engagement. We went to individual property owners in small groups. We met with neighbors in the building, adjacent to the building, on the block, to make sure they understood our concept and we were doing something that strengthened this neighborhood. We heard folks wanted increased ground level activity. We heard folks wanted another amenity for the neighborhood. Folks love the addition of residential units. They want us to make sure we preserve that. We did hear one concern that we want to thank staff for helping us address, that the hotel use stay in this 20,000 square foot ground floor box. And that's exactly what we're committed to doing. And there's a proviso already recommended by staff to make sure this conditional use is only for the ground floor. So here's what we want to build: a 20,000 square foot ground level hotel with an incorporated ancillary restaurant with a small lobby facing Carondelet Street, a separate entrance to be separately accessible from the apartment building, with a proviso to ensure that the apartments stay apartments, the condos stay condos, and the hotel is limited just to that ground floor use. It's a really innovative design. It's technology infused rooms that will be very cool and very creative. They've worked really successfully, these executive style full service rooms, the size of a standard hotel room with a lot of technology in them. It'll be new to New Orleans. We'll be the first hotel that uses the technology inspired inlet corridors. So we meet all the approval criteria. We ask for your support. And I will say this, I'm not just a representative of the developer, but a neighbor. Our office is 1 block away. This has changed our quality of life, having the adjacent Julia and restaurants and smoothie shops. And this ground floor hotel will have a restaurant amenity for the neighborhood that we'll plan to use as well. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sherman. Commissioners, at this time now, do you have any questions for Mr. Sherman or for staff as it relates to zoning docket 6721? Are there any questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Sherman. We'll continue on with our agenda to subdivision docket 13620.
Commissioners, this is a reconsideration of a subdivision application that was denied by CPC a few months ago. You'll recall it was deferred from the last meeting because this is an updated, revised version of the original application, and it had to be renoticed, which required its deferral. So the original proposal was considered in April, created a number of lots. At the CPC hearing, there were concerns voiced by opponents about the density of the development, the design of the structures that were to be built upon the development. And so for those reasons, among others, the commission denied the application. It was appealed to council. Council vacated the denial and remanded it to CPC. So here it is before you. In the interim period, the applicant has met with neighbors according to the applicant and has reduced the number of lots by one. So the additional area was spread out among 4 lots on Crowder to make those 11 feet wider and about 1,500 square feet larger in area. But the substance of the matter hasn't really changed. The staff recommended approval of the original application. It recommends approval on the same grounds. And so this is before you with a staff recommendation of approval subject to 1 waiver and 4 provisos.
Okay, commissioners, at this time, do you have any questions for staff as it relates to subdivision docket 13620? All right, if there are no further questions, Mr. Grandison, I see that you're on. Are you representing the applicant? Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner Stewart, Miles Granderson representing the applicant, 800 Barone Street. We were not involved in the early process here. The applicant reached out to us after the previous City Planning Commission meeting. The history of this, as you all know as well or better than I do, is it went through with initial approval, but there was an issue that while the direct neighborhood association got noticed, ENONAC, the umbrella neighborhood association for the East, did not get notice of the NPP. So then it went back through. ENONAC did have some issues with the subdivision as it was planned, and based on that opposition that was there, it was denied at the CPC at the last time it was heard at this CPC meeting. It went through to council. Council at that time remanded and sent it back, thinking that there was an opportunity for the 2 sides to get together. And then that's where we came in. What appeared apparent very early on here was that there really was a meeting of the minds to be met, and it was just sort of getting past maybe some of the hurdles from the failure to have that NPP notice go out. So we had numerous phone calls, and then met with the land use committee for ENONAC. At that time, towards the end of the meeting, the ENONAC land use committee suggested that as a way to get this moving forward, that one of the things that was an issue is that they wanted grander, larger lots, particularly on the Crowder frontage, to demonstrate the sort of middle class nature of New Orleans East, and have a grand front door along Crowder. So in order to do so, there was a lot taken away from the Crowder frontage, and that the area of that lot was added into the other 4 lots to give each lot 50 plus frontage. Also, we agreed to some changes to the design of those buildings along Crowder. So there's been an agreement with ENONAC and with the developer, and everybody's on the same page now, as well as the council office.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grandison. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Grandison or for staff? All right, if there are no questions, we'll continue on to move to subdivision docket 8021.
Subdivision Docket 8021 is a request to re-subdivide lots 2B and 52A into lot 52B. The existing lots are currently zoned H2MU, Historic Urban Neighborhood Mixed Use District. The proposal will create one L-shaped lot, lot 52A, by combining two lots with varying lot depths, lot 2B and lot 52A. While the proposal to create an L shape that deviates substantially from the allowable 15% threshold, the proposal does correct a condition where an accessory structure, a standalone parking garage, will no longer exist on its own lot of record. The proposal will put an existing historic residence on the same lot of record as a small 3-car accessory parking garage. As this creates an improvement of the existing conditions and is consistent with the master plan, staff recommends tentative approval subject to 3 provisos.
All right, thank you. And do we have the representative present from 2545 Bayou Road?
Yes, sir. This is Andrew Ryan with 2545 Bayou Road, and my address is 2545 Bayou Road, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70119.
Okay, all right, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, so when we bought the St. Rose de Lima Church, had controlled a significant amount of the property in this neighborhood, and when I purchased the structure and the 2 lots, excuse me, the St. Rose de Lima Church had been using them. They'd been using the parking garage, the 52A, as parking for the church rectory on 2B. And we would like to obviously just combine the 2 lots because they've been using them for over 50 to 60 years. They've been, under the same ownership, but since we bought them, we had to buy them separately. And we would just like to combine them.
All right, well, thank you so much. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Ryan or staff? All right, there are no questions. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. We'll continue on to Subdivision Docket 8121.
Subdivision Docket 8121 is a request to create a single lot by combining a corner lot with the interior lot it abuts. The resulting lot will be a larger corner lot with 195 feet of frontage along Audubon Street, 120 feet of frontage along Hurst Street, and 23,400 square feet in area. The proposed lot's shorter side, the 120 feet along Hurst Street, will thus become its front property boundary, which constitutes a reversal of the existing lot's Audubon Street frontage, and thus will also result in the new lot's interior side yard abutting 4 other properties required rear yards. Those properties are all along Walnut Street. The proposal is not consistent with Section 518 of the Subdivision Regulations, which sets forth the Commission's general disinclination to approve lot frontage reversals if they will result in the side yard abutting a rear yard condition described above. However, the proposal meets the criteria for a Policy B subdivision in that it eliminates an existing nonconformity, namely the presence of an accessory building on the existing corner lot that no longer has a principal structure, and will also legitimate the 2 existing lots' current use as one development site. The proposed corner lot would be an anomaly to the prevailing development pattern in the immediate area. However, there are ample instances of the same lot configuration throughout the larger Audubon neighborhood. The proposal is consistent with the master plan, and thus the staff recommends tentative approval of Subdivision Docket 8121 with final approval subject to 3 provisos.
All right, thank you. At this time, we have a representative or the Dunbars present to speak on this subdivision docket.
Yeah, my name is Ian Mills, 904 Jackson Avenue, New Orleans. I'm a representative for the Dunbars. And I appreciate everyone hearing the docket. I agree with the recommendation. I have no further comments at this time. I'd be happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mills. Commissioners, at this time, do you have any questions for staff or for the representative present on this zoning docket? On the subdivision docket, rather. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Mills. If there are no questions, we'll continue on and move to subdivision docket 8221.
Subdivision docket 8221 is a request to re-subdivide existing lot B2 into lots B2A and B2B in an SLC suburban lake area general commercial district in the Lakeview neighborhood of New Orleans. The existing lot consists of a portion of an existing strip mall in addition to vacant land directly adjacent to the strip mall. The re-subdivision request would create two lots of record. Proposed lot B2B would contain the portion of the lot with the strip mall, and proposed lot B2A would be comprised solely of the vacant land, which will allow future development. The two proposed lots would both have insufficient lot widths and lot areas in accordance with Article 14, Section 14.3.a, Table 14.2 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. Proposed lot B2B will most likely require additional variances for permeable open space and interior side yard setback. These deficiencies necessitate variances from the Board of Zoning Adjustments prior to final approval of the subdivision request. The proposed lots are part of an existing shopping center that acts as one development site with a shared off-street parking area. The proposal does not alter the function of the site. It will simply permit the development of underutilized land. The staff does not find that the proposed subdivision is problematic and is sensical given the historical nature of the shopping center. Therefore, the staff recommends tentative approval of subdivision docket 8221, subject to 4 provisos.
All right. Thank you. And at this time now, do we have the applicant present, M&O Realty, our representative to speak on subdivision docket 8221?
Miles Granderson, again, representing the applicant, 800 Barone Street. We certainly just asked the commission to approve this, tentatively approve this subdivision today. Again, it's part of a development, so it seems that as though it would make sense to allow the development of the structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Granderson. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff or for the representative for the subdivision docket? All right, we'll continue on. So at this time now, the remaining items on the docket on our agenda for today, number 12, 13, and 14 are being recommended for deferral. Do we have anyone present to speak on that docket? All right, so we don't have anyone to speak on those. Those will be recommended for deferral. At this time now, the chair will entertain a motion for a 30-minute adjournment recess so that we can get public comments.
Commissioner Lund, I move for a 30-minute adjournment. That would be until 3:12 to allow for public comment.
All right, is there a second?
Commissioner Mobley will second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Lund for a 30-minute recess, seconded by Commissioner Mobley. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Is there any further discussion on that motion? If there's no further discussion on that motion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexandra?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Steed?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart? Yes. All right, unanimous support for a 30-minute recess, and we'll reconvene at 3:12. Thank you. All right, commissioners, if you're back, please turn your camera on so that we can do a roll call and continue in our meeting. All right, at the time now is 3:14. I'm going to do a roll call so that we come out of recess so that we can take action on the remaining items on our docket. Start with a roll call. Commissioner Alexander.
Present.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Lund.
Present.
Commissioner Mobley.
Present.
Commissioner Steig.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart, present. All right, commissioners, you should have received all the public comments via email. Please check your emails and you can start reviewing the public comment at this time. The first item that we have is zoning docket 6321.
Okay. Mr. Chair, we have about 16 comments on that zoning docket, and they are all in support. First comment is from Fallon Young, address 2401 Diabity Street, New Orleans, in support. I'm in support of the application. Broadside has been an incredible asset for the neighborhood and to our organization, a nonprofit that frequently rents space from this entity and uses it to produce low-cost and affordable public arts programming, which may include film screenings, live music, networking opportunities, and panel discussions. I am also a neighborhood resident. I own a home approximately 1 mile away and believe that this small business positively impacts the cultural fabric of my neighborhood. Next comment is from Benjamin Lyons, 915 Louisa Street, in support. I'm writing in support of Greenway Ventures petition to change their zoning to permit outdoor amusements. I use quotations around outdoor amusement because what we are really talking about here is artistic and cultural development for the residents of our city, not mere amusement. The Broadside Theater has been an indispensable space during this miserable pandemic because it has provided a venue for New Orleans to create and celebrate its musical culture, free from the stultifying constraints imposed by a tourist industry which now dominates so many of our musical venues. The Broadside has hosted everyone from second-line organizations to beloved New Orleans bands to world-renowned jazz musicians in its short history in a wholesome, family-friendly environment. It is exactly the sort of development the city should be encouraging, and its worth to the community well extends beyond this emergency period. Benjamin Lyons, owner-producer of Valid Records. Next, from Ethan Elstad, 1307 Aretha Castle Haley, representing Music and Culture Coalition of New Orleans, in support. I'm writing to express the Music and Culture Coalition of New Orleans' full unequivocal support for Broadside Greenway Ventures LLC zoning change and conditional use. Since establishing the Broadside in late 2020, Mr. Knighton and his partners have gone above and beyond to provide a safe, family-friendly, and community-centered venue that has provided an invaluable service to the city of New Orleans. While this zoning change and conditional use will not fully resolve every roadblock that unfortunately lies in the path of Broadside becoming a permanent venue, it will allow the process to move forward while city officials concurrently resolve barriers to outdoor live entertainment. In January of this year, this board unanimously recommended the outdoor live entertainment study for approval. The proposed plans for the Broadside draw heavily from that document. Mr. Knighton has shown over and over again his commitment to being a responsible operator, including engaging the services of an acoustician to redesign his stage and to further reduce the sound levels that could overflow into the surrounding neighborhood. The business has provided badly needed income for musicians, support staff, and service industry workers, and given countless residents a respite from the mental and physical stress of the pandemic. It has been one of the few bright spots that has emerged over the past 18 months. Please approve this application without delay. Next, from Andrew Durta, 734 Pontalba Street, in support. My name is Andrew Durta, a mathematics profession and longtime passionate supporter and freelance curator of New Orleans music in the city and abroad. Broadside New Orleans has served an unparalleled and welcome venue in these complex times, putting crowd safety and satisfaction first and musician support a very close second. On behalf of myself and countless companions from New Orleans and beyond who have been spiritually and sonically filled as its fountains since late fall 2020, I offer my wholehearted support for the city to grant its allowance and blessing for this unique and beloved space to continue presenting the finest and safely spaced live music. Next from Maggie Bobbitt, 801 St. Joseph Street, Unit 14, in support. The Broadside Theater has been a godsend to local musicians and fans. It was an unbelievable feeling to hear live music again at the Broadside after a year of shutdown. Our musicians were some of the most negatively impacted by COVID. We need to support our local musicians and those venues that provide them with a safe space to play. The Broadside provided a beacon of hope during a very dark time. I support the Broadside Theater and its mission to provide a mission to provide a friendly, accessible, and responsible place for musicians and fans. I support the Broadside because I want our local musicians to once again thrive and be able to actually make a living playing music. The venue is important to me, to our city, and to our culture. Thank you. Next from Katie McDonough, 24 Brayburn Drive Park, Forest, Illinois, in support. As a music lover and frequent visitor to New Orleans, I would like to express my support for the zoning changes proposed by Broadside Music Movie Venue. During the worst of COVID times, the owners presented live music in a safe and comfortable environment. It was such a pleasant environment that I hoped it would continue long after the pandemic. New Orleans needs such a venue. I hope the CPC grants the changes and the owner is requesting. Next from Jeremy Kelly, 1604 Pauger Street, New Orleans, in support. The Broadside has been a COVID responsible venue for audiences and musicians alike in our community that opened in our real time of need. Brian and his team provided a safe space for New Orleans to do what we do best, play and enjoy the music of our city. I believe it is in our city's best interest to support this outdoor music venue as it has supported us. The Broadside has been a lifesaver for musicians in our community, providing a place to work and sustain our musical incomes while also providing our community with a safe and responsible way to enjoy our culture. This is a venue that provides a totally different experience than the venues in the Quarter or on Frenchman Street. We have played music in venues all over the city, and I see Broadside becoming a new cultural staple in our community. That is a symbol of how we can come together and overcome difficulty to sustain our local music. Please allow them to amend this so that we can all continue to enjoy this beautiful outside music venue. Let the music play on. Thank you, Jeremy Kelly. Bon vivant. Next from Hirsch Katzen, 2037 Audubon Street, New Orleans, in support. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to offer some comments in support of the Broadside at this hearing. I have attended well over 25 concerts and other events at the Broadside in 2021. I am very familiar with the details of their operation and their very capable staff. One, the Broadside is focused on public safety. They provide a socially distanced and outdoor entertainment suitable for a wide variety of arts, music, movies, visual arts, and dance, among others. They encourage or require masks in compliance with the city and CDC guidelines. They maintain a daily list for contact tracing and compliance with the city and CDC guidelines. Two, the Broadside provides a much needed opportunity for our city's artists to make a living, contribute to the vibrancy of the city, and avoid the burden that unemployment services put on the city and state. There is more than adequate parking at the venue. The Broadside has very few residential neighbors for whom decimal levels might be a concern. Events end early, typically at 10 p.m. in order to be both a good neighbor and also to not interfere with the schedules of more traditional music and arts venues that typically start later in the evening. In conclusion, I encourage the CPC to support the Broadside's request at this hearing and allow it to continue to provide its very valuable service to our city, its residents, and its culture bearers. The Broadside is quite simply doing it right. Thank you. Next from Sophie Vorhoff, 2200 Lafayette Street, New Orleans, Friends of Lafayette Greenway, in support. Broadside has been a responsible neighbor and a partner to the Greenway in expanding outdoor community cultural space at a time when this is critically important. Brian Knighton, owner of the Broadside, is a friend of the Lafayette Greenway Board, Friends of Lafayette Greenway board member. Friends of Lafayette Greenway supports creating welcoming transitions between public and private realms and encouraging attractive, active uses to expand the public realm. Next from Roman Maney, 2739 St. Peter Street, in support. I live on St. Peter, New Orleans, St. Peter Street, New Orleans, right across the street from the Broadside outdoor venue. I cannot express my appreciation enough for the time and care that has been taken both to improve this area of Broad, but also in the owner's attentiveness in communicating with the neighborhood. I was able to attend the NPP outreach meeting held a few months ago, and Mr. Knighton told the neighbors in attendance the plans to improve and enhance the Broadside as an outdoor musical venue. Everything was laid out and explained very well. I am excited to see the plans for this venue fully realized, as I believe it will improve the Broad area and the Lafayette Greenway corridor. Next, from Sam Williams, 3314 Claremont Drive, Big Sam's Funky Nation, in support of the application. Performing outside is safer for musicians and music lovers during this pandemic, and it would be a shame if the Broadside didn't get the license. I believe the Broadside has earned and deserves the permit during these trying times. This is New Orleans. Let's keep music alive, especially when it can be done safely. Thanks, Big Sam. Next, from Devin DeWolf, 818 Gallier, crew of Red Beans, in support. We support the Broad Theater as an outdoor music venue. COVID taught us many lessons and we should adapt. The Broadside is one of the safest music venues in New Orleans, and their response to COVID is a model that should be applauded and supported. We hope the city of New Orleans allows them the ability to host live music. Their venue is safe, kid-friendly, and good for our city's musicians. Next, from Adam Shipley, 438 Calhoun Street, in support. My name is, this is Adam Shipley, and my company is Hepcat Entertainment. I manage the Soul Rebels and Walter Wolfman Washington and promoted shows in New Orleans for over 20 years. In the deep days of the pandemic, when no music shows were allowed indoors, Brian Knighton and the Broadside were a ray of light. The Soul Rebels and Walter Wolfman Washington were able to play safe, potted shows there. The bands and fans were overjoyed to experience some sense of musical normalcy given the circumstances. Now that things are gradually moving forward, it is our prayer and hope that the Broadside will have the ability to continue to be a one-of-a-kind place for people of all ages and walks of life to experience the amazing music that New Orleans has to offer. Next, from Craig Klein, 1521 Melpomene Street, in support. My name is Craig Klein. I'm a full-time professional musician who just won a Grammy with the New Orleans Nightcrawlers Brass Band. I also play in Bonorama, the Storyville Stompers Brass Band, the Jazz Vipers, and a few more. These outdoor venues that have come to life during the pandemic have been a blessing for musicians and the culture of New Orleans. New Orleans musicians play outside, especially the brass bands. It is part of our history and unique culture. Now that these fantastic venues, which end the live music early in the evening, are a real possibility, I ask and plead with you to give it a chance. We now know it's safer to play outside. These venues cater to the family. It is not a bar, but a place where all ages can enjoy our rich culture. Please be kind to our culture. It is one of our greatest resources. We really need these outdoor music venues to survive as musicians and culture bearers. Next, from Lauren Avioli, in support. I support the request by Greenway Ventures that would allow for the continued operation of the outdoor theater and amusement space. It is a beneficial neighborhood amenity for residents and artists alike. Next, from Jan Ramsey, 400 Esplanade Avenue, Offbeat Magazine, in support. Please allow the Broadside to continue to operate as an outdoor live music venue. With the COVID Delta variant upon us, we need safe outdoor venues to keep our music scene vital and thriving. Musicians need to make a living too. That's the last comment.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul, for reading those into the record. At this time now, Stephen.
Staff recommendation is deferral to September 14th.
All right, so commissioners, at this time now, is there any further discussion with staff or a motion?
This is
Go ahead, Susan.
Mobley. I motion to defer in accordance with staff regulations. I appreciate all of the comments that were made. It's not within the power of this body to grant a permit for live entertainment for this venue. And I hope that a solution can be found in the next month, or at least a better working arrangement.
Okay.
I'll second that and do it just to add, because I agree with what Sue Commissioner Mobley said. If there were a solution, I'd be trying to find it. But I think we've heard that even if we send this up to the city council to try to hurry things along, that it's not in front of them in a posture where they can do anything about it. That is, the text changes in front of them. So that being said, I don't think acting and bifurcating it and dividing it would help. And I'm afraid we're stuck and need to have the deferral. So I'm in support of the motion.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Mobley, seconded by Commissioner Stieg for a deferral. Commissioner Mobley, can you state the date that you're requesting a deferral?
Staff recommendation was for 1 month. So the first September meeting, which is
September 14th.
Thank you, September 14th.
Okay, so the September 14th meeting. All right, is there any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor?
I think I have a question, Commissioner Lund. The applicant had a concern about safety and permits response to our vote today. I would like to ask if staff could clarify that for me, or if the applicant could clarify that concern. Is it appropriate to ask this now with the motion on the floor?
So Commissioner Lund, if you have since your question is relative to the motion, I'm going to ask that Stephen, can you answer that question?
Yeah, so there are a number of issues relative to permitting and licensing that, and Mr. Knighton can explain this better than I can because he's living it, but there are issues of permitting and licensing that are related to, but not part of the zoning change conditional use application. And so I think he's trying to work through that process with safety and permits. It's not something I feel I can speak to very knowledgeably, but we on the staff side will do what we can to facilitate that over the next.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephen. That's my concern. I feel like the applicant is caught in a, not a technicality, but a legality situation that's just unfortunate, because I would like to vote for this to go through and it's not possible at this time. So hopefully concerned about how something will be interpreted by the applicant do not come to fruition, and this can move forward with just as expeditiously as possible. So thank you for that clarification and committing that you all will work with the applicant to move it forward.
May I respond, since Commissioner Lund did ask?
So Mr. Knight, at this point, public comment is closed unless Commissioner Lund directs a question to you.
Yes, since Stephen had said that Mr. Knighton understands it better, and I'd like to hear his response.
Thank you, Commissioner Lund. I just, in my opening statement, I knew that the CPC board could not make a text amendment. I knew the commission would not allow or allow me to have this use. That was understood from day one. The purpose of the zoning change and the conditional use, really for the, to recognize the AC1 for the bar and to the conditional use for the outdoor live amusement, was in order to have safety and permits then grant a waiver for the closed windows and doors, which is what I've been told they can do. And I have the emails from safety and permits saying that that's what they can do, and that's what they did back in July of last year. That was the whole purpose of this application, not that CPC could make this text amendment. I was very aware of that. I wanted to go to safety and permits with something in my hand, because now they have nothing to respond to. They have no reason to say we can grant a waiver, because they have nothing to grant a waiver for. And I know this process will take time. There's just a little sense of urgency now with so many gigs being canceled. And now we have gigs on our books for September that might also start to be canceled. So safety and permits have not been very responsive, period. And I was hoping to have a little bit of leverage.
Thank you.
In there. That's it. Yeah,
Right.
Thank you.
So any additional questions on the motion on the floor for deferral to September 14th by Commissioner Mobley? Any further questions? All right, if there are no further questions, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yay.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steed,
Yes, yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Unanimous support for the motion for default to September 14th. We'll continue on to our next zoning docket, 6421.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next docket is 6421. We have one comment from Michael Duplanche in opposition. More time to understand the implications of this proposal would be appreciated. Digital billboards with their massive size and bright lighting represent a visual intrusion on our community, and no text amendment should be considered that would ease expansion of the existing digital inventory. That the instant proposal is reported by staff to be not to be inconsistent with the master plan is not a statement of any intrinsic merit, but rather yet another indictment of a master plan that lacks sufficient specificity or a clear enunciation of broadly shared and embraced community values. No text amendment facilitating additional digital permits should be recommended or proceed based on a determination of which the proposed conversions are less objectionable, a ridiculous standard which appears to be the rationale for the pending staff recommendation for approval. Such an attitude represents an affront to our collective sense of self-worth as a community. We can and should govern ourselves better and look better than such an attitude implies. Communities that have self-respecting standards of governance would never propose less objectionable as the basis for administrative consideration and appropriation. CPC should admonish the staff report and summarily reject such a finding. That's the last comment. This is the proposal by City Council motion for text amendment concerning implementing option 2 of the City Planning Commission's billboard study, and the staff has recommended deferral. The staff report did not state a meeting date, but at this time I'd recommend the first meeting in September.
All right, thank you. And at this time, we did hear opposition, but I don't see Mr. Cartiz online for rebuttal. So we'll move on. Commissioners, at this time now, do you have a question for staff or a motion for zoning docket 6421?
Commissioner Brown will move to defer this matter to the first meeting in September.
Is there a second?
Stiegel, second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Brown for deferral to the first meeting in September, seconded by Commissioner Steeg. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Yes, Commissioner Lund. So I worked this last time this came up in 2018. We had a number of meetings with billboard industry, and it seems like we are still lacking some basic clarification. You know, reading the report that safety and permits does not have clarity on how to monitor and enforce anything that we would vote on. So we definitely need clarification. I would like to understand this clearly before we move forward, because when we had the committee meetings before, it was too much in the hands of the industry to determine which signs were to be traded for digital signs. So it has to be where it actually benefits the city and the historic core, and particularly on Canal Street. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions in regards to the motion on the floor or comments? There are no further comments or questions. I'll call a question. Commissioner Alexander.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley.
Yes.
Commissioner Steeg.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Unanimous support for deferral to the first meeting in September, which brings us to zoning docket 6521.
All right, we have one comment from Jeffrey Seymour, 2227 Royal Street, Faubourg Marigny Improvement Association in support. Faubourg Marigny Improvement Association is in support of zoning docket 6521, requesting a conditional use to permit a multifamily dwelling in the HMR3 Historic Marigny Treme Bywater Residential District. The FMIA has previously submitted a formal letter expressing this support, which, despite it having been submitted on time, was not included in the package. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this item.
And the staff recommendation is approval with 6 provisos.
All right, commissioners, at this time now, do you have a question for staff or a motion for this zoning docket? Do we have a question for staff or a motion?
Jonathan, can you repeat what the staff recommendation was?
The staff recommendation was for approval.
And I move for approval in accordance with staff recommendation.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Steve for approval. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Alexander, I second the motion.
All right, and Commissioner Alexander has seconded that motion of Commissioner Steve. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes, unanimous support for approval for zoning docket 6521, which brings us to zoning docket 6621.
All right, there is one public comment from Lauren Avioli, 2645 Toulouse Street, in support. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Lauren Avioli. I am the Director of Housing Development for SBP, a nonprofit organization that created Toulouse Commercial, the applicant for today's AHPD request. I'm available to answer questions about the existing or proposed developments on the site. SBP is a disaster recovery and affordable housing nonprofit that started in St. Bernard Parish after Hurricane Katrina. We've worked in New Orleans for the past 15 years, helping people recover from Katrina. In 2017, tornadoes and the city's affordable housing crisis. Not only do we help homeowners repair their homes post-disaster, we also build and rehab homes for sale and rent to low and moderate income residents so they can build resilience before disaster. With the first 50 units of the St. Peter Apartments, we built Louisiana's first net zero energy residential building with on-site battery storage, providing energy efficiency and storm resilience to 50 lower income households at prices they can afford. Our waiting list is hundreds of names long, however, and we know that we need more homes to serve our city's lower income veterans, people with disabilities, and families. That's why we're seeking this affordable housing plan development approval today. The remaining undeveloped corner at Broad and St. Peter can accommodate up to 32 units under this land use proposal. Without it, we could build no more than half that number. Therefore, we ask the City Planning Commission to recommend approval of our request to City Council. I would also like to mention that the proposed development is recommended for funding from the city's Office of Community Development as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. Stephen?
The staff recommendation is approval with 12 provisos.
All right, commissioners, at this time now, do you have a question for staff or a motion for this zoning docket?
Was there an additional proviso that was needed for this one, or
There was a 12th proviso that was not included in the staff report. Rachel read it into the report earlier.
okay. Well, I'll make a motion, if that's okay, to approve for staff's recommendation with the additional proviso in the report that was not included, as stated by the staff.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Brown for approval with the addition of the additional proviso that was read into the record by staff, seconded by Commissioner Lund. At this time, is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion? All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Unanimous support for the zoning docket for approval. All right, that brings us to zoning docket 6721.
All right, we have several comments. First is from Len Wormser, 840 Carondelet Street, Apartment 316. In support, I am a resident of the building and support the proposed hotel and restaurant. Next, from Michael DePlanche, 820 Barone Street, President Lafayette Square Association, in opposition. Proposed conditional use for this hotel should be rejected. No public need for this hotel is demonstrated, and thus the application lacks the threshold requirement for the zoning ordinance. A conditional use is a zoning outlier requiring a showing and a searching determination of compatibility and appropriateness with adjoining properties and with the neighborhood at large. These approval standards impose a very high bar for the applicant, requiring that he demonstrate that the proposed use preserves the character and integrity of the neighborhood. As one who lives just down the street from a large hotel previously approved by the commission, I can assure you that no such hotel can be said to be compatible with or appropriate for a neighborhood like the Lafayette Square neighborhood. The CPC staff rarely, if ever, has recommended rejection of a CBD 5 hotel conditional use application. Every such report uses similar verbiage and appears to be copied from previous reports. The justifications for recommended approval are always the same. It is either one more hotel can't hurt, or the neighborhood does not yet have too many hotels. Such a subjective, facile, and inappropriate standard of review does not properly serve the interests of the neighborhood, or for that matter, the CZO and its legislatively imposed protections and burden of proof. I urge that this application be rejected. Next, from John Williams, 824 Barone Street, in support. The project at 848 Carondelet is much anticipated improvement in the neighborhood. My building is less than 150 feet from this project. I look at this project from my office daily. I am proud to support the concept that the developer has come up with because it is very creative, and we always need more of that in the mix to keep the central business district vibrant. Next, from Bill Hoffman, 1000 South Norman C. Francis Parkway, in support. As the developer of the Julia Apartments directly next door, we believe this use will be a benefit to the surrounding area and provide an amenity to this section of the neighborhood. We support this conditional use application. Next, from George Bowser, 725 Howard, in support. I write today as one of the founding members of NOCHI. Our team is in full support of the ground floor hotel and ancillary restaurant in the garage located at 848 Carondelet Street. We welcome the positive addition of a boutique hotel and believe this project will strengthen the neighborhood and add vitality to the pedestrian experience on Carondelet. We look forward to having this as our new neighbor. Next, from Narendra Gupta, 827 Carondelet Street, in support. We are the owners of 827 Carondelet, directly across from the garage, and we'd like to express our support for the boutique hotel. Next, from King Milling, 867 St. Charles, in support. I'm writing in support for the boutique hotel concept proposed for the ground floor of the Stevens Garage, located at 848 Carondelet Street in downtown New Orleans. As the landowner of the property at the corner of St. Charles and St. Joseph, adjacent to Stevens Garage, I believe this use would be a benefit to the surrounding area and provide an amenity to this part of the neighborhood. Next, from Murray Ross, 450 Julia Street, 2A, in support. These developers are very creative. I have a lot of enthusiasm for how their plan will turn out. The city needs development dollars, and this idea is both creative and should create good new jobs. That's the last comment.
All right, thank you, Paul. Stephen?
The staff recommendation is approval with 7 provisos.
All right, so right before we get into that, Mr. Sherman, we did receive opposition. You have a chance for a rebuttal if you would like to at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We appreciate the support. We'll note that we have in the staff packets support from almost all or a large number of the property owners on the block, residents signing letters of support in the packet that you have, as well as property owners. We respectfully ask for your support today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sherman. So commissioners, at this time now, you have a comment, questions for staff, or a motion?
Commissioner Lund, like to move for approval of zoning docket 6721 in accordance with staff recommendation, subject to 7 provisos.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner
Brown,
Lund.
second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lund for approval, seconded by Commissioner Brown. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? There's no further discussion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steig,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Unanimous support for zoning docket 6721 for approval. Next up, we have reconsideration of subdivision docket 13620.
We have several comments. First is from Don Abear, 6846 Lake Willow Drive, East New Orleans Neighborhood Advisory Commission, in support. The East New Orleans Neighborhood Advisory Commission met with the developer and his team regarding the Crowder subdivision on June 10th, 2021. Mr. McDowell was open to a compromise regarding the conformity of the homes and the lot size. Enonak has received the updated lot configurations and designs of the larger lot size brick front homes that will be located along Crowder Boulevard. An agreement was made to paint the standing structures to a more suitable color other than pastel, place brick stairs and wrought iron railings on the porch. This appears to be an ongoing project as none of the structures have been repainted and outside work seems to be stalled. Since the June 10 meeting, another developer in New Orleans East has presented his project to the commission showing proposed homes that will conform to the neighborhood in which they will be built, and the houses will be of better quality and materials that will cost the same price as the ones proposed by Mr. McDowell. Although a compromise was met, several of the nearby neighborhood leaders are very concerned regarding the completion of this project and their property values. In closing, Enonak asks that the CPC closely examine all future developments in New Orleans East that not only affect property values, but also the concerns of residents. Next, from Marsha McWilliams, 8300 Lomond Road, in support. During the June 10, 2021 meeting with Enonak Eastern New Orleans Neighborhood Advisory Commission, it was promised that improvements would be made to the existing homes that will conform best to the community. However, since the meeting, nothing has been done to address the existing homes. This is concerning and caused a lack of trust. I would ask that 3.2.7 Policy G, innovative design of the subdivision regulations are upheld. This will encourage development that creates a superior living environment and provides for the utilization of design and ingenuity. Although the proposal may not fully comply with all of the standards of the CZO pertaining to lot size and building setbacks, a successful proposal shall be sensitive to the existing and possible future developments in the area and shall be consistent with the goals of adopted elements of New Orleans. And finally, from Miles McWilliams, 8300 Lowman Road, in opposition. The houses that are being built construction are not compatible to the existing subdivision houses. Therefore, unless the builder will change the plans of the homes to conform with the existing properties, no further construction should be allowed. That's the last comment today.
All right, thank you, Paul and Stephen.
The staff recommendation is approval with one waiver and 4 provisos.
All right, and Mr. Grandison, you did receive opposition, so at this time now, if you would like to rebuttal against the opposition, you have that liberty.
I don't think we need to rebut. I think the most important comment was given by Don Abear and the other representative with Enonak, pointing out that there's been an agreement reached and the parties are, perfectly happy to go about and in furtherance of that agreement. So what you see before you is a plat that comes from that agreement, and the house designs that were presented come from that agreement as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grandison. So commissioners, at this time now, is there any questions for staff or a motion? Are there any questions for staff or a motion?
The staff recommendation was for approval. With, I'm asking.
With one waiver and 4 provisos.
Okay, so I move for approval in accordance with staff recommendations.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Steig for approval based on staff recommendations. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Alexander, I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Alexander has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? If not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steed,
Yes.
and Commissioner Stewart. Yes, unanimous support for approval for subdivision docket 13620. That brings us to subdivision docket 8020.
No comment, no public comments.
All right, so commissioners, at this time now, any comments, questions for staff, or a motion for subdivision docket 8021?
And I'll note that the staff recommendation is approval with 3 provisos.
Commissioner Lon, I move for approval of subdivision docket 8021 as recommended by staff, with tentative approval subject to 3 provisos.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Lunn for approval based on staff recommendation. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Mobley will second.
And Commissioner Mobley has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? If not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steed,
Yeah. Yes.
Commissioner Stewart. Yes, unanimous support for approval. We'll move on to subdivision docket 8121.
No public comments.
All right, Stephen?
The staff recommends tentative approval with final approval with 3 provisos.
All right, commissioners, at this time now, do we have any questions or comments for staff or a motion?
This is Commissioner Stieg. I move for approval in accordance with staff recommendation.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Stieg for approval based on staff recommendations. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Lon will second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Lunn. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor for approval? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? There's no further discussion on the motion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steed,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart. Yes, unanimous support for the motion for approval. And that brings us to, that was subdivision docket 8221.
Mhm.
That was 81.
8221 now.
No public comments.
And staff recommendation is approval with tentative approval with final approval subject to 4 provisos.
At this time now, commissioners, do you have any comments or questions for staff or a motion?
Commissioner Brown will move approval per staff's report.
All right, it's been moved for approval, approval based on staff, the staff report by Commissioner Brown. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Lon will second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Lunn. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, if not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Lunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steed,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Unanimous support for approval. And so I think our remaining items on the agenda for today have been listed for deferral. So we'll need to conclude with 2 more motions. One, deferring the remaining items and a motion for adjournment. So at this time, Madam Chair will entertain a motion for deferral for the remaining items left on the agenda.
Commissioner Alexander, I move that the remaining items on today's agenda be deferred to the August 24th, 2021 meeting.
Okay. And those items would include zoning docket 6821, zoning docket 6921, and zoning docket 7021. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Commissioner Lund.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Alexander and seconded by Commissioner Lund for deferral of the remaining items left on the agenda to our next meeting. Is there any further discussion on that motion? There's no further discussion on the motion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Steig?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Unanimous support for deferral. So at this time now, the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment at 3:59.
Commissioner Lund, I'll move for adjournment of today's meeting.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Lund. Is there a second?
Brown will second.
All right, it's been seconded by Commissioner Brown. Is there any further discussion? There's no further discussion. Commissioners, you can just raise your hand if you're in support of the motion. If you're opposed, to state your opposition now. Well, the motion is carried and we are adjourned at 4 o'clock. Everyone have a great day.
Great. Thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.